Behind the romanticized facade of cowboy adventures and frontier dreams lies a darker side that history has seldom revealed. Brace yourselves for the unspeakable things that unfolded in the heart of the Wild West. Number 1. The Bloody Lincoln County War. The Lincoln County War stands as a somber testament to the depths of human greed, ambition, and the capacity for violence that can arise when unchecked power intertwines with lawlessness. It serves as a stark reminder that the romanticized notions of the Old West often obscure the harrowing truths that lurk beneath the surface. In the late 1800s, the American frontier was still a land of opportunity, yet it was also a place where disputes over land, resources, and authority could escalate into full-blown conflicts. The Lincoln County War was born from such a dispute, fueled by a toxic cocktail of greed, personal vendettas, and a lack of established legal structures. As rival factions vied for control of land, businesses, and political influence, the simmering tensions erupted into a series of violent confrontations that would stain the annals of history. At its core, the Lincoln County War was about power and control, emblematic of the struggles that often defined the Old West. It was a fight not just for land and wealth, but for dominance in a region where the law was still an evolving concept. The war exposed the fragility of societal order in an environment where authority was often exercised at the end of a gun barrel. The escalation of violence into ambushes and assassinations reveals the depths of animosity that had taken root. The line between righteous justice and reckless vengeance blurred as both sides sought to eliminate their rivals. The result was a gruesome trail of bloodshed and destruction that left families torn apart, communities divided, and futures shattered. Perhaps what is most chilling about the Lincoln County War is how it showcases the potential for chaos and brutality when society's moral compass wavers. In a world where justice wasn't always dispensed fairly, where personal grudges could escalate into armed conflicts, and where survival often depended on the barrel of a gun, the boundaries between right and wrong became blurred. The war's legacy is a stark reminder that the Old West was a place of stark contrasts, a land of opportunity and lawlessness, a realm where dreams and nightmares coexisted. As we reflect on the bloody Lincoln County War, it's crucial to see beyond the Hollywood portrayals of heroism and adventure. This conflict reveals the complexities of human nature and the grim realities of power struggles in a time of limited governance. It stands as a cautionary tale that urges us to understand history in its entirety, acknowledging both the triumphs and the darker facets that shape the Old West's legacy. Number 2. The horrors of the Chinese Massacre. In the grand tapestry of the Old West, where tales of rugged cowboys, vast landscapes, and the promise of opportunity are often romanticized, there lies a haunting chapter that bears witness to the unsettling underbelly of the era. The Chinese Massacre of 1871 in Los Angeles stands as a stark reminder that this era was not a realm of dreams fulfilled for everyone. Beneath the facade of expansion, development, and the pursuit of the American dream, there existed a deeply entrenched darkness, fueled by racial tensions and intolerance. At the heart of this tragedy is a community of Chinese immigrants who, drawn by the allure of opportunity, sought to carve out a new life in the West. However, the reality they encountered was far from the idealized visions that had led them across oceans and continents. Instead of finding open arms and equal prospects, they faced a hostile environment rife with prejudice and xenophobia. The Chinese Massacre of 1871 serves as an emblematic representation of this intolerance. As we revisit the gruesome events of that fateful year, a wave of horror washes over us. The memory of a mob of nearly 500 white and Hispanic residents descending upon the Chinese community is a chilling testament to the depths to which hatred can sink. The subsequent brutal murders of 19 Chinese immigrants underscore the cruelty that human beings are capable of inflicting upon one another when driven by irrational fear and hostility. From a modern standpoint, it's easy to condemn the violence and bigotry that fueled the massacre. However, it's important to recognize that the events of 1871 were not isolated incidents, but rather manifestations of broader attitudes prevalent during that era. The scapegoating of Chinese immigrants was fueled by economic competition, as they were often blamed for perceived threats to jobs and wages. This fear-based narrative escalated into a frenzy of violence, culminating in the massacre. The Chinese Massacre serves as a sobering reminder that history is complex, multi-layered, and not always painted in shades of black and white. It underscores the importance of acknowledging the darker aspects of the past, even when they challenge the heroic narratives that often dominate historical recollections. The event forces us to confront the reality that even in the midst of progress and opportunity, humanity is capable of unspeakable cruelty when fueled by prejudice and ignorance. As we reflect on this chapter of the Old West, we must endeavor to learn from it. The Chinese Massacre of 1871 stands as a poignant reminder that progress should be accompanied by empathy, respect, and a commitment to justice. It is a call to vigilance against the perpetuation of hatred and a reminder that a society's true strength lies in its ability to embrace diversity and uphold the rights and dignity of all its members, regardless of their origins. In essence, the horrors of the Chinese Massacre reveal the underbelly of bigotry and intolerance that was far from the alluring dreamscape often associated with the Old West. It compels us to acknowledge the shadows that linger behind the scenes of history, urging us to confront our past so that we may collectively forge a more inclusive and compassionate future. Number 3. Violence against Native Americans. The narrative of the Old West often conjures images of cowboys, gunfights, and untamed frontiers. However, amidst the tales of adventure and exploration lies a darker reality: the tragic history of violence against Native American tribes during the westward expansion. This period, characterized by the relentless push for land and resources, witnessed the profound suffering of indigenous communities, with the Sand Creek Massacre of 1864 standing out as an indelible testament to this harrowing chapter. The Sand Creek Massacre is a chilling illustration of the systemic brutality imposed upon Native American peoples. In this tragic event, a United States Army regiment, led by Colonel John Chivington, launched an unprovoked attack on a peaceful encampment of Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes in southeastern Colorado. The camp was composed mainly of women, children, and elderly individuals who had believed they were under the protection of the United States government. This trust proved fatal as the soldiers opened fire without warning, resulting in the deaths of over 150 Native Americans. This massacre sheds light on the deep-seated prejudices and callous attitudes that underpin the westward expansion. It exposes the hypocrisy of promises made to indigenous communities in the name of peace and coexistence, only to be betrayed by acts of unthinkable violence. Moreover, the Sand Creek Massacre highlights the stark power imbalances that mark the interactions between the expanding settlers and the Native American inhabitants. The massacre was not an isolated incident, but rather part of a broader pattern of aggression and dispossession that characterized the era. As we examine this tragic event from a modern perspective, it is important to recognize that the Sand Creek Massacre is not a relic of the past. Its echoes reverberate in the present-day struggles faced by Native American communities. The scars left by this violence continue to influence the social, economic, and cultural landscape of these communities. Acknowledging this historical trauma is essential for understanding and addressing the ongoing challenges that Native Americans confront. Number 4. The lawless vigilante justice. In the vast expanse of the Old West, where frontier towns sprang up seemingly overnight and the rule of law often lagged behind, the concept of justice took on a wild and unpredictable nature. The term vigilante justice conjures images of brave individuals rising up against lawbreakers in the absence of proper legal mechanisms. While this might sound romantic and justifiable, the Montana Vigilantes' actions reveal a complex and troubling side to this phenomenon. The Montana Vigilantes, a self-proclaimed group of concerned citizens, emerged as a response to the rampant crime that plagued the mining camps and settlements of Montana Territory in the mid-19th century. Driven by frustration with the lack of established law enforcement, they took it upon themselves to rid their communities of criminals. In 1864, their actions reached a grim climax when they summarily hanged 21 suspected outlaws. On the surface, the Montana Vigilantes might appear as defenders of justice, but their methods highlight the murky ethical waters in which they navigated. The lack of due process in their actions raises questions about the nature of true justice and the potential for abuse. While some of those hanged were undoubtedly guilty of crimes, the absence of a fair trial robbed them of the chance to present their case and defend themselves. This absence of accountability sheds light on the delicate balance between vigilantism and an organized legal system. The blurred lines between justice and lawlessness are further underscored by the motives of the vigilantes. While their actions might have been driven by a genuine desire to protect their communities, there's also a hint of personal bias and unchecked power at play. The absence of established rules and procedures allowed individuals to take justice into their own hands, potentially leading to revenge-driven actions or the settling of personal scores under the guise of community welfare. The Montana Vigilantes story also exposes the underlying tension between the need for order and the yearning for autonomy in a lawless land. While a structured legal system might have been absent, the rise of vigilantism reveals the underlying desire for a semblance of law and order. However, this quest for order often resulted in a form of mob justice that, while well-intentioned, inadvertently perpetuated an atmosphere of violence and fear. As we reflect on these stories, let's remember that history is a complex tapestry woven with both heroism and darkness. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more riveting historical revelations and captivating content.